We have in Ireland a rich and abundant wind energy potential, which I firmly believe can be harvested and exported as a real economic opportunity for this island.
Much of Ireland's gas comes from Britain, and we would welcome Irish-generated electricity forming part of Britain's energy mix. We hope that our open and competitive energy market will make it possible for Irish companies to increase their market presence in the United Kingdom over these coming years.
There's a clear rationale for the Greenwire project. We have one of the best wind resources in Europe, and we have more than enough renewable resources to achieve our own targets. So we should look at ways of exporting that electricity to other markets. That is proven by the fact that we have just received the first grid connection between Ireland and the UK for 3,000 megawatts. We have plenty of wind resources in Ireland, and we plan to utilise those resources to create a 3,000 megawatt wind farm in the Midlands of Ireland to export this electricity directly into the UK and create a new industry with a turnover of over 1.2 billion euros.
The Greenwire proposal is at an advanced stage. Screened by surrounding topography and vegetation, the network of wind farms will be sited in the low-lying Midland counties of Ireland. They will have a combined generation capacity of up to 3,000 megawatts of renewable power.
The Greenwire project is really all about supply and demand. We have too much wind in Ireland, more than we'll ever need, and in the UK they have a large demand for green electricity. Where this project is bringing those two factors together. We are also recognising for the first time that you can build wind farms in the low flatlands of Ireland, where we have an excellent wind resource, but previously unexploited. We're using the latest technology from the turbines suppliers that will capture very large amounts of energy from even these lower sites. And we're gathering up from maybe up to 40 different clusters of turbines in the Midlands of Ireland. We're going to gather the power together to a central converter station, and we'll convert that to HVDC, which is a very efficient way of transporting the power underground across the Irish Sea into strong connection points in Wales and delivering the power to the UK consumer by 2017 in time for them to meet their 2020 targets.
Element Power has secured a 3,000 megawatt connection from the national grid in the UK. 2 landing points for the submarine cables in Wales have been identified. When completed, Greenwire will be exporting electricity generated from renewable power to the UK electricity grid. At the construction phase, the project will deliver significant job numbers and income for local landowners and local authorities. Element Power has already signed legal agreements with sufficient landowners to justify the cost of installing a connection to the UK and is in substantive discussions with additional landowners in the Midlands. The management team have a good track record in Ireland, having developed a range of successful renewable energy projects.
Element Power Ireland was formed by 3 former executives of SWS Energy, which, when it was sold in 2009, was responsible for developing almost 20% of the Irish renewable energy market at that time.
The Greenwire project will involve private sector investment of €8 billion. It will result in the creation of an estimated 10,000 development and construction jobs and up to 3,000 long-term jobs. Rental payments to local landowners, combined with annual rates to the local authorities across the Midlands, will amount to €50 million each year.
The government have set quite ambitious targets under their action plan for green jobs of looking in the region by 2050, having 20,000 people employed full-time in operational and maintenance and development of renewable energy projects in Ireland. This project would go a substantial way towards that, and we're not talking about a long way down the road in terms of 2050, we're talking about in the next 8 years. There's the potential with this project of creating in the region of 3,000 full-time jobs. It would also support income diversification for landowners, of which there's over 200 involved in this project, where they would be getting and receiving an income from this project, supporting their families, supporting their local communities, which is very substantial.
Expert advice suggests that Ireland has the capability to achieve its national targets for renewable electricity from onshore renewable generation alone, with capacity to spare. And there is also potential for projects of scale onshore for export markets. Our overarching strategic objective is not just to make renewable energy an increasingly significant component of Ireland's domestic energy supply by 2020, but also to make it a significant component of our export sector and help our balance of payments.
The Greenwire project can create up to 10,000 jobs during its construction phase and 3,000 long-term sustainable jobs when it is up and running. It will also provide up to 50 million euros in local income between rates and rent to local landowners. It will also create increased taxes for the Irish Exchequer.
Our main export sector at the moment would be agriculture, for instance, where we're using land in Ireland to generate food to export mainly to the UK. We have the same opportunity with wind energy. We're using land to extract wind energy to export it to the UK. It's not in the same economic value as agriculture, which is in the region of about 8 billion, but for the wind energy, the opportunity there is in the region of about 1.2 billion in terms of what added value this would bring to the Irish economy.
The Greenwire project is a very timely development to meet the needs of the UK energy market. The UK has been energy independent since the discovery of North Sea oil and gas in the 1970s. However, these reserves are nearing depletion, and the UK is once again facing a reliance on imported energy to meet its demand. The UK is also facing the prospect of decommissioning its ageing nuclear and coal power stations. These currently supply some 20% of the UK's overall electricity requirement. Although the UK has significant wind resources of its own, especially in Scotland, it faces difficulty in developing its offshore wind resources in the short term and is considering cooperation with other European countries to achieve its targets. The UK's energy challenge presents an opportunity for Ireland to generate a valuable new export industry.
We need to look outwards, and we need to embrace the opportunities that renewable energy and further market integration brings. Movement towards a single European energy market presents a real opportunity for Ireland and the United Kingdom to achieve substantial revenue benefits from electricity exports. In addition to exports, there are other benefits from deeper cooperation and greater energy trading between our two countries. As trusted friends with close personal business and government-to-government connections, Britain and Ireland can have confidence in security of supply from one another.
There's a tremendous window of opportunity that exists at the moment for Ireland with regard to renewable energy generation. If you look at the UK, our largest trading partner, they have set legally binding targets for renewable energy in a country with a very large population and with a very critical energy demand in terms of how are they going to meet those targets. By 2020, they have set targets where 25% of their existing coal and nuclear power plants are going to be decommissioned. And at the same time, their energy demand is rising. And they've also set legally binding targets with regard to how much of their energy is going to come from green energy. This results in the fact that in the region of about 120 billion euros worth of investment is going to be required directly in green energy to meet those targets in the UK. But they're also very keen on developing cross-border energy networks between Ireland and between mainland Europe and the UK. So it offers a tremendous opportunity in the next 8 years for Ireland to get a piece of that cake, as you would say, with respect to renewable energy business opportunities that might come our way. We would be exporting electricity in the same way that we'd be exporting food, for instance, into the UK market. So it's a marvellous opportunity for Irish companies and for the Irish economy to actually get involved in this technology, which we already are, and we're very successful in it in this country because we have a resource that nobody else has in Europe in terms of the wind resource that exists here. It's a fantastic opportunity, and it really only lasts until 2020 because the British government have said after 2020 they're not going to support renewable energy for onshore wind at the same level that they currently are. So the business model really is only there for that window of opportunity of the next 8 years.
The UK government is currently engaged in identifying where it will source its energy into the future. Imports are the obvious solution, and this is driving interest in greater grid connection with neighbouring countries. In addition to the monetary benefits, there are strategic benefits to Ireland trading energy with the UK, such as security of supply and reduced costs of electricity. Greenwire is fully in line with the policies of both the Irish and UK governments. However, before the project can get underway, there remains a variety of regulatory and policy issues that will need to be addressed.
Over the last 18 months, there's been a number of meetings at ministerial level and at department level, and it's very clear now that there's a momentum behind the policy of exporting surplus wind energy from Ireland to the UK. But obviously, behind that, there's going to be a lot of detailed work required to get some of the regulatory regime set up. And we've done a lot of work with some experts, both of UK and Ireland, to determine what changes would be needed to the regulatory regime on both sides of the water. And we've shared that with both regulators. And we see that over the next 18 months, it'll be possible to bring those changes through the system.
The EU Renewable Energy Directive is the framework under which Ireland can develop cross-border trade in renewables. And I'm committed to delivering on that opportunity for Ireland through our ongoing work with the UK to develop a bilateral trade in renewable energy. That work is set to intensify over the coming months with the objective of achieving an intergovernmental agreement under the EU framework to underpin the export of renewable energy.
The Greenwire project fits in with the current energy policy of the European Union to develop a Europe-wide electricity grid based on efficient new underground cable technologies that enable greater use of renewable energy sources. Not only will such a grid meet many of the security of supply issues faced by member states at the moment, it will also go a long way to resolving the main challenge facing increased use of wind power, what's known as intermittency in wind availability. Wind is not constant. However, the more extensive the network of wind farms across countries, the more likely that wind will be blowing in some regions, and thus the intermittency issue is resolved.
The EU has a vision of creating a single electricity market throughout Europe, and that's particularly important for technologies such as wind power generation, because it is intermittent. It blows the wind blows at different times in different parts of Europe. So it's very valuable from a market point of view if you've got some diversity and you've got some generation located in Ireland where the low pressures come sweeping off the Atlantic and send the power from Ireland first, and then later it comes from UK generation, and then later from Danish and Norwegian sources. And that makes wind easier to integrate and makes it more valuable to the consumer in the end.
An electricity highway system connecting the electricity networks of countries across Europe allows surplus power in one country to flow to another where the electricity is needed. Allowing power to follow transnational supply and demand will enhance efficiency and therefore lower the cost of energy for all. The transnational trade of power is a concept long mooted by the European Union. Power generated in any one of the participating countries can be shared across borders to meet demand in other locations. Ultimately, a Europe-wide grid could allow Northern Europe's abundant wind and wave power to share markets with solar projects from Southern Europe.
That we can benefit from a fundamental transformation of Europe's economy to a low-carbon economy based around a radically increased energy efficiency, accelerated deployment of renewable energy, smart networks, and a well-functioning, well-interconnected internal energy market.
European and international policy demands that we move away from fossil fuels as an energy source. CO2 emissions and global warming have led to commitments to make renewable energy account for 20% of EU energy supplies by 2020. Element Power is committed to ensuring that all wind farms will be sensitively located in order to minimise environmental and visual impact. By locating wind farms in low-lying areas as opposed to high ground, they are less noticeable. Although the wind turbines are tall, they are not always imposing visibly on the surrounding landscape because they become screened by the topography and vegetation. So when driving local roads, hedging, trees and hills restrict visibility. To date, Several potential sites have been identified, spread over many properties. Feasibility assessment of all the shortlisted candidate sites are carried out to ensure that they have no environmental designation and that they are set back appropriate distances from rivers, roads and private dwellings. Element Power's activities across the world have always ensured that developments are sensitively located within the local environment.
Well, we have a long history of trying to identify suitable wind farm sites. What we use is a GIS, a computer-based system, and it basically contains all the information of sensitive areas that we need to avoid, for example, special areas of conservation, special protection areas. And then in addition to that, we would refer to all of the county development plans, and that would identify areas that are suitable for wind development, and they're the areas that we would go and identify suitable sites within. It's actually only a very small area of land that we require of the landowner, and we would form an agreement with the landowner which would allow us the rights to go in and investigate the viability of developing turbines on their lands, and subject to taking that assessment through and identifying a specific suitable location and getting the permitting in place, we would then enter a long-term agreement with the landowner to lease that area of land for the turbine. And the benefits for the landowner is that they obviously get an income for a very long period of time, and that they are still able to do their normal operations on the rest of their lands.
Environment impact assessments will involve a wide range of scientific studies and evaluations, which will be conducted by specialists in wind farm impact assessment. These engineering and environmental evaluations will be conducted over the course of the next year, so that a planning application will be ready for submission by the autumn of 2013.
As part of the process, we would have to consult with bodies like the National Parks and Wildlife Service, who would have responsibility for a lot of the environmental designated areas. We would consult with the inland fisheries, the monuments authorities, and the local authorities' environmental agencies and heritage and conservation sections as well.
Consultation with local communities and stakeholders is a core feature of all Element Power projects. Proposed wind farm locations and groundworks, such as cable laying, may have an impact, and local community inconvenience will be minimised. A high level of engagement with the communities will be a core feature of the Greenwire project, ensuring that all local issues are effectively addressed.
And once we've selected the sites and reached agreement with the landowners, we're then going into the environmental assessment stage, and also assessing the impacts on the local communities and interacting with the communities to understand any concerns or fears they might have. Generally, you know, what we find is we get a very positive reaction from local communities once we consult with them at an early stage and take them through the process of what we're doing and explain the role that they play in the planning process, and then on to the actual construction and operation of the wind farm. So in general, you know, when dealing with local communities, what we find is a lot of their initial concerns can be dealt with quite easily, and you know, we try and show and develop additional benefits for the project in the area. So for example, in this particular project, it is going to have an extensive network of underground cabling connecting the wind farms to the external converter station, and part of the benefits that we see of that is that a fibre, communications fibre, can be laid with the cables and actually have the potential to significantly increase the connectivity from a broadband point of view in the local areas.
Greenwire brings together international funding and expertise, the latest technologies, and a passionate commitment to sustainable economic and social development.